serving as net control for the RAYNET-UK weekly activity net. This net meets each Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time and is open to all amateur radio operators interested in emergency communications. The primary purpose of the net is to provide the opportunity for members to test equipment, exchange traffic, news, opinions and information, with additional information on the RAYNET-UK website at www.raynet-uk.net. This is a directed net, which means all calls are to be made to the net control station unless you are instructed otherwise, and all RAYNET-UK operators are invited and encouraged to check into the net. When you do check in, please announce your call sign slowly and phonetically, followed by your name, and if you wish to leave the net immediately after checking in, then please call in and out. Otherwise, if you want to leave after subsequent turns, then please make it clear you want to check out at that time. After I've heard a few calls, I'll repeat who I've heard, and if you're not acknowledged, then please do try again. If you miss your turn to call in, I will call for any extras at the end of the UK and international sections. So I'll now begin taking check-ins as usual in call sign number order. So any station with figure 8 to figure 8 in their call sign wishing to check in, please call now. G4 and RC, over.
Golf 8 Echo Yankee, G8 EEY. Good afternoon, Greg. Name is Mike.
Eight Echo Yankee. Good afternoon, Mike. Any other 8s, please? G4 and RC, over. Nothing heard. Let's have 7s. Stations figure 7 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 and RC, over.
Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, G798. Good afternoon, Greg.
Mike 7 Alpha Victor Oscar. Good afternoon, Greg. Can you show me in and out this week, please?
For RC, nothing heard. Let's have 6s. Stations figure 6 in their call sign, please go ahead, over. For an RC, second call, any stations figure 6 in their call signs, please go ahead, over. For an RC, nothing heard. Lots of stations figure 5 in their call sign, please go ahead, over. For an RC, nothing heard from the 5, so we'll go straight to the 4s. Stations figure 4 in their call sign, please go ahead, over. Golf 4 Hotel Uniform Foxtrot, G4HUF. G4HUF acknowledged. Any other 4s, please? G4 and RC, over. Nothing heard, so let's have 3. Stations figure 3 in their call sign, please go ahead. G4 and RC, over.
Golf figure 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray Ian in and out this week. Greg, thank you.
Golf 4 November Charlie returning. Ian, Golf 3 Zulu Hotel X-Ray. Good afternoon. Copied you as in and out. But Golf 3 Victor Echo Hotel had carrier no audio. Try again, over.
G3VH, is that okay this afternoon? In and out this afternoon.
Golf 3 Victor Echo Hotel. Good afternoon, Chris. Most of the audio received on that time, yes, copied you in and out. And it was good, just seemed to come to a slightly premature end. Any other threes, please? G4 and RC, over. For an RC, nothing heard, so let's have twos. Stations figure 2 in their call sign, including you intermediate 2. Please go now, over. For an RC, second call, any stations figure 2 in their call sign, including the intermediate 2s. Please go ahead. G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, nothing heard, let's have ones. Stations with figure 1 in their call signs, please go ahead, over. G4 and RC, nothing heard, so let's try Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please call now, over.
MI0, excuse me, MI0 MSO, Philip, Northern Ireland, and a night.
Mike India 0, Mike Sierra Oscar, good afternoon, Philip. Copied you in and out, but good to hear you. Any of Mike 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please, over. G4 and RC, then let's have Golf 0 stations of any regional secondary identifier, please, over. G4 and RC, second call, any stations Golf 0 of any regional secondary identifier, please call now, over. G4 and RC, so any UK stations who've missed their turn to call in, please call now, over.
G4KL, Golf 4 Kilo, India Lima, Philip, South Sussex, over.
India Lima, Golf 4 November Lima Charlie. Good afternoon, Philip, and got you on the list. Do we have any of our international colleagues on the talk groups today? That was usually Nordsamband of Norway, Aaron in Ireland, Aries in Slovakia. Any of our international colleagues, please? G4 and RC, over. G4 and RC, then any station, UK or international, that's missed their turn to call in for the net, please call now. G4 and RC, over.
G4K, I'm not quite sure if you got me, Greg, last time or not. G4K, over.
G4KIL, yes, you were acknowledged, Philip. Over.
from G4K. Okay, sorry, I only got the last bit of your over back to me, and I didn't think it was my call sign. Thank you for acknowledging. G4K, over.
G4 and RC returning. Okay, right, looks like we're about 10% down on connected peers today onto the RAYNET-UK talk groups. Father's Day having an impact, and also the log sheet has gone a bit flaky on me, so it's going to be an interesting net, but that's what pen and paper are for. So, Graham G7NEH is live streaming the net to YouTube as usual today. Past live streams and recordings are available by searching G7NEH, that's Golf 7 November Echo Hotel on YouTube. And if you would like to like and subscribe to his YouTube channel, and let him know it's all worthwhile. It feels like it's been a slow week in emergency communications, but there's probably lots of things to come. Some news services continue to highlight the close down of the RTS service, that's the radio teleswitch service on Radio 4 Longwave, and how many people will lose their preferred energy tariffs as a consequence. As usual, things aren't going to plan, and the withdrawal of the RTS service may now be delayed and put onto a regional basis, which presumably means they'll just focus engineers on an area to complete the smart meter switchover until it's complete and then move elsewhere, because I can't see how you can regionalise Radio 4 Longwave that readily. Groups have been busy with this weekend though. Sadly, the Wales NVIS test slated for yesterday may have suffered from poor propagation conditions, but the strength of amateur radio and emergency services is we have many tools in the toolbox, and only by trying and exercising do we understand what works on any particular day, and any other day than yesterday, HF would really have worked. Finally, a call to arms for a very short list today. A ReliefNet controller is required for the next 2 Sundays. That's the 22nd and 29th of June. So if there are any volunteers, please let me know. Otherwise, there'll be a couple of weeks of ad hoc get-togethers on the talk group instead. So, what thoughts does that inspire from everyone this week? Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, you're first up. Golf 0 Delta Uniform Bravo. Correction, Golf 4 November Romeo Charlie, over.
G4NRC from G8EEY. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a comfortable 23 centigrade here today. 1,021 millibars. 58% relative humidity. 42% cloud cover. Miles. Let's have another go. Dropped off there for some reason. Yeah, mild 6.7 miles per hour from 262 degrees. Well, Friday evening into Saturday morning was quite interesting. Haven't seen that level of electrical storm activity way more than back in a fox hunt exercise at Cantley when we got horizon to horizon lightning. But that Friday night was continuous lightning for the best part of half an hour. It was almost like daylight. Interesting to see that outside the pub where I was hiding from the rain, one of the drains in the middle of the road had a 6-foot geyser shooting out of it, courtesy of the water running down from a hill to one side. Yes, we do have them. Yep, I've been probably a bit busy tomorrow. I've got a Norfolk Fire and Rescue Service webinar in the morning till lunchtime. A Windows 11 upgrading webinar from about 2 o'clock onwards, and then, of course, just a reminder, it's a COM meeting in the evening. And, yeah, as you say, things are likely to get busy. I got notification of the next national exercise, which is a 3-part one over September, October, and November. So that will be a very long exercise, I reckon, from G8EEY.
Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee, G4 and RC returning. Okay, copied all that down in my thickest pencil on the piece of paper that's standing in for the log today. Yeah, I haven't forgotten about the COM meeting tomorrow. Priority is trying to wobble my head around a load of temporary repeater queries. that are kicking around. So those will get done, and then we've got some papers to read for tomorrow. I'm presuming the national exercise you're talking about is the one that was led by, was it the Department of Social Health and Social Care? Making up a new department name like government does. I think I saw a pre-announcement for some of that come out, Resilience Direct, wasn't aware of any other. Other than that, all noted, and yes, heavy storm flooding and trains going in reverse is something that's very difficult to predict, even for the Met Office supercomputers. So once again, we have to respond to a range of events, from the very predictable to the it happened 2 seconds ago kind of variety. Right, thanks Mike. Let's go to Graham. Golf 7 November Echo Hotel, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC, G798. Good afternoon, Greg. Good afternoon to all on the net. Not a lot to report this week. Last week's viewing figures were a total of 31 views and a total of 3 likes throughout the week. So yeah, there we go. If you tick me as out on the next round, Greg, but obviously I'll continue to listen and stream. With that, back over to you, G4NRC, G7NH.
G7NH, G4NRC returning. Okay, well, it's to be a respectable viewing number, Graham. What I am wondering about, I should really do some longer term stats on net attendances, is whether people are being displaced by getting such news that we have here off the Friday news republication, and maybe the YouTube videos as well, which might just got no harm with the YouTube videos because it lets people hear what their signal sounds like, but wondering about some of the other stuff and what do we do to drive net activity rather than passively just watching and listening. Other than that, side news for you, having only got tested a little earlier on, when I buy the cartridges, we will have the ability, that's you, me and Dave and Phil, I suppose, from the other side of the county, to print out some heat shrink printable labels to stick around coaxes and things. So first of all, I have to make sure the printer works. Next, I'll be getting hold of the offending black and yellow, I presume, cartridges for making some coax identifiers. Right, let's go next to Phil. Golf 4 Hotel Uniform Foxtrot, G4 and RC, over.
This is G4HUF. Yep. Good afternoon, Greg, and everybody else on the net. Bit of a quieter one today, but not to worry. Means there's less people for me to bore and send to sleep. As noted in my email about a week ago, I wasn't around last Sunday. I was too busy enjoying myself away in North Yorkshire. The only trouble was that I came home on Friday afternoon, and of course almost immediately had to worry about the trout race at Winkle yesterday. That was definitely interesting because out of the 6 initial volunteers that I had, 2 cried off, and so we had to do a bit of juggling around. Particularly as one of those that cried off was the man I was going to get to run control. So fortunately I brought my mast with me, and with that and a panorama dipole, clip-on dipole on the mast, Bruce G10RS was able to run control from his handheld, which was a great relief. And the others of us struggled out in the sticks. So we got there, we survived. There was no serious incidents. apart from one person who fell and clubbed their head. Well, apart from that, no incidents at all, so a relatively quiet event. And now it's a case of try and recover from that and the holiday, and then sensible head gets put back on and start getting a few things sorted out. So that's the story from this end, Greg. G4 and RC, this is G4HUF.
HUF, G4 and RC returning. Okay, Phil, it's an interesting one, that. I can usually, if you like to say, I've got a planning assumption of one person dropping out or getting lost or not being on points for an event. But two is unusual. So what is an acceptable attrition rate for volunteers? Of course, when we were looking at COVID stuff, but back when it was called bird flu, the reckoning was you could have, pretty much like you had, a third of your people not turn out for doing normal day job, let alone voluntary stuff. So interesting, but like you say, survived more than one way than another. And I don't know if I've said it before, but my leave for your cycle ride, if I remembered it right, in August, it's all signed off now, so that day is assured. So you've got one extra body then, just not sure which vehicle, but neither of them being particularly off-roadable, will be out with you for that. Okay, last on this turn, which is unsurprisingly early, is Philip, Golf 4 Kilo India Lima, G4 and RC, over.
G4 and RC. Okay, yes, thanks very much. Apologies for being up late there, Greg. It was I was just late. No other excuses at all. Just weren't quite ready to be up when you were first calling through. In fact, I think the net came on at 7 minutes past, and I was quite surprised how far you got by then. So that my fault there. A few things to mention. One I've already mentioned before in previous weeks. Oh, apologies for being, I think, missing the last couple of weeks. But I think I mentioned that before that one. Next week, on the starting Friday night going through till Sunday morning, I expect to be running a special event station from just a field north of Swindon, an event that's there. Not quite sure at this stage what the special event call sign is going to be. It might be GB0's CVM, but it might not be. I was just having a look at the email. There's another radio amateur who's done the NOV and put me down apparently as a second operator, so he hasn't told me what the call sign is going to be yet. But obviously appreciate people listening out for that. That means, of course, covering the Saturday, that it means that I will likely be operating the station when the RAYNET-UK net takes place. It will be an HF station, well, HF, VHF and UHF. I've apparently got to avoid the UHF when they're doing a falconry display, because I might mess up the tracker on the falcon. Anyway, I should be up for that. I will probably try and join it. I'll probably start with my own call sign, G4KL, because you'll recognise that. But if you do hear a GB station come up, a special event one, you'd be kind enough to let me in. That would be lovely. I don't know whether from Swindon that means I'll be more likely to. Well, probably depends which way the antenna's going. I'm not sure which way they're oriented now. Whether that means I'll be more likely to hear you, Greg, there. If you're up next Saturday. The other good one, I don't think it's been mentioned on this net yet today, that I believe I'm right saying next weekend is the next of the 5 megahertz sort of interactions with the Air Training Corps. I forget what it's probably called. It's got a proper name, isn't it? I think it's another one of those, which I'm looking forward to again, because that should be giving me plenty of stations to talk to, which will be lovely. I may or may not be on for the DMR station. I'm just going to slow down a bit because I'm conscious I talk terribly quickly sometimes, and you're trying to write it down, aren't you, Greg? So let me slow down a little bit. So my timeout will probably go in a minute, but I can always rekey. Next week, DMR net. I will try to be on. I'm likely actually to be driving back from Swindon towards Brighton and Hove at a time that the net is on, but maybe I'll pull into lay-by or something, so I can take part in the net, providing I can get mobile phone signal to get into. The last one I was going to ask is something came up. One of our members, we just recently had another possible event for our local group. Right, there was the timeout. Hopefully that's come back in again. We had another possible event for our local group, which when we gave an indication of what our expenses were likely to be, they said, oh no, can't afford that. Partly possibly because it's slightly out of our patch, really. It's almost across to the next county. So it was right on the edge of it, so our travelling would have been quite a lot. And they said, oh no, we probably can't manage that. And one of our other members said, well, maybe we should try and offer that kind of thing as a lost leader, basically offering to do it for no expenses, just to sort of get them and see what we can do. I just interested to know whether that's something any other groups had done, because obviously it's a bit of a live discussion in our group at the moment as to whether that's something we should do. Right, I hope to manage to get all that down, Greg. Apologies for my rapid prattle. I must learn to slow down. G4 NRC, is it? I've got where we are now from G4KIR.
G4KIL, G4 NRC returning. Well, in the true style of Father Jack, that would be an ecumenical question. Knowing that some groups do not charge their members for membership because they get their funding from donations, as we put it. Those groups might be more focused on, we need a donation to be sure we're going to come back next year. I used to reckon within West Cheshire 50% of the events would pay a reasonable donation, and the other 50% get absolutely nothing from them. Over time, that got harder to justify when we've lost some of the bigger, more generous events, but it is still a way that we can't make a charge as amateurs, etc. So you get what you get. From the other extreme, I do know there's some groups that charge almost radio club level fees to be members of RAYNET, out of which comes the national dues. But then you go, well, what do they actually need donations? And it's really down to your individual group finances, whether or not you feel a lost leader, as you put it, or a charitable event from a charitable organisation, as we are, is a good thing. And for that, I probably also look across and see what had happened when the Red Cross and St John used to charge with great alacrity. It did put people off. In reverse order, Blue Ham, exercise Blue Ham for the cadet operators of all sorts of skills. That is indeed next weekend, 21st and 22nd of June. Only caution is, yes, it's a 60-metre net for the HF team, unless propagation is useless and we might be going anywhere. Just not sure how it sits at the moment using a special event call on 60 metres still. Because there might be some rooted in the old days of NOVs and stuff like that and full operators, but just be worth having a look. And yes, if we can work you, then any call sign will do. Right, I think that's cleared that. So we'll go back to the top of the list and see what thoughts your questions might have spurred from the two remainder. Bike, Golf, Echo, Echo, Yankee, G4 and RC, over.
G4 NRC from G8 EEY. I try not to have too many thoughts these days. Generally, I've got a good supply from the Environment Agency and the Met Office of warnings that come into me, and I tend to pass them on to all my members in Norfolk, and at least one person said it was pretty accurate over the weekend, so they did pretty well. Pretty much what they said was going to happen did, although it was about 1 hour late, but that's not bad. I mean, it hits around about midnight instead of 11 o'clock. Yes, the exercise is one based on dealing with possible future pandemics, something to do with a winged horse, I believe. But that's all I know about it at the moment. And I think the planning is in the next sort of, well, I think some of the planning's been going on already. But we shall see. Well, thanks for running that, Greg. We'll see if anybody's around to do next week or the week after. From G8 EEY.
Golf 8 Echo Echo Yankee G4 and RC. Yeah, sounds like we've seen the same thing then, as if it's a pandemic exercise as we had quite practically. Depending on your LRF, there's not a lot of communication issues tend to result from those, so it could be a nice national exercise for some, but not very useful for us. Okay, and the warnings. Anybody tends to say something's an hour late. I do wonder whether we've picked up the UTC time versus the the BST time for some of that stuff. But yeah, it is allegedly getting better. I tend to prefer more of the nowcasting based on radars, accepting that most of our weather forecasts are based on which is the most probable out of 50 very randomised outputs. Other than that, yeah, we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Graham's signed out, but he's still running the stream. So it's down to Phil again. Golf 4 Hotel Uniform Foxtrot, G4 and RC over.
This is G4HUF. Right. Okay, couple of comments to make then, based on previous transmissions. First of all, the bike race thingy in August. It's not a one-dayer, Greg, it's 3 days. Are you going to be available for the other two as well, over?
G4HUF, I will check on that, Phil. But the Friday seems to be the more imperative since it's a working day, so I wanted to be sure I've got that one resolved because I figured that would be your hardest day to cover. G4HUF, G4 and RC, over.
This is G4HUF. Yeah, okay, that's not a problem. And certainly making yourself available on the Friday would be appreciated. There's no ifs or buts about that. So thanks for that. And the other interesting thing being discussed, expenses. Well, that's understandable as far as that's concerned. I mean, when you start thinking about my expenses for going down to the long distance walkers event in Suffolk, I would have wiped out a very large proportion of the donation that the LDWA gave to East Suffolk RAYNET in that regard. So that's definitely an interesting one. I mean, from my personal point of view, I would not issue expenses to members unless there was an obvious hardship situation from somebody who turned out and found themselves seriously out of pocket. None of my members express interest in claiming expenses at this stage. I've not had that situation. And having said that, although the group's accounts are fairly healthy, we did get a small donation from the proportion of the LDWA monies given to East Suffolk. Their group controller carefully sat down, worked out all the man hours and divided it up accordingly to the relevant groups. And we've got a cheque sat downstairs which needs to be deposited in the account for 116 quid. Well, if you think about the fact that there was, shall we say, 4 nights hotel accommodation plus food plus about 500 miles in mileage for us to go down there and do it, that 116 quid wouldn't cover it. But certainly from my point of view, I justified the trip because we also did other things unrelated to RAYNET on our run down there. But yes, it's an interesting thought, expenses, and certainly something that I do not turn around to organisers and say, you know, it's this is what we would expect or anything like that. I'll literally say, well, you know, whatever you think is deserving. So that is the way that we work it in this group. But other groups, you know, got to consider it from their own local circumstances, which is fair enough. Anyway, on that note, I'm starting to waffle again, so I shall shut up. G4NRC, this is G4HUF.
G4HUF, G4NRC returning. Okay, yeah, a bit of a delay getting through to Brandmeister then. Yes, that's what I said, is making medical questions. Every group's got to look at it on their own health and training opportunity, because I still, having remembered the licence conditions of the 80s, when we weren't allowed to do public service events, and then it grudgingly got allowed to be a licensee could do 12 events a year, but no more than 4 in any month. It's been a long time getting to the point where we've pivoted around to being more event support than actually emergency response in what we do our training for. And that's probably where I'm looking at flipping back now that we've got we've got a couple of events a year, and then it's helping other groups out. But otherwise, how do we fill in the gaps with more emergency focused training for doing what we say on the tin rather than event support? So thanks, Phil, for that. I'm moving down to Philip. Sorry, there will be no right answer to this one. G4KAL, G4NRC, over.
G4NRC, G4KIL. No, I understand that, but really appreciate the comments I mean there. In fact, there's a great objection in coming back. I will probably, when I get back to my home, I'll probably bring up the YouTube one, so that'll be one of you get on there if it's been. I think I don't know if I hope it. I think you said it was being done today. If it is being, I shall probably record the responses off and then stick them on as audio files on our local WhatsApp, because I think the comments have been very useful. It would be very useful input to the general discussion that's going on. I perhaps should put a little bit of clarification in, but choosing my words slightly carefully. What happens in our group? Well, perhaps I actually might start off by saying that we're one of those groups that has a vehicle, which is very nice to have, a transit van with a mast built in, with quite a lot of equipment on, which, because of the security equipment, we feel we have to keep in a caravan park, and that is our major expense. And the only way we can meet that expense is by encouraging our members to donate their expenses to the group. So that's actually what we're doing. We don't actually, in general, very rarely, I think, do we have any of the members actually claiming the expenses for themselves. But we claim expenses typically, I think it's the right way of putting it, from the, or at least we say we indicate to the people that we'd like them to meet our expenses, and those expenses then go towards the group to cover the cost of the vehicle. I think that's probably a pretty accurate way of putting it. So that's where it came from. And I mean, historically, we were one of the groups that used to not charge at all for membership, and that has been changing recently because of the challenges on our expense, on keeping our expenses down. So all very useful, the comments that have been made there, and I really appreciate hearing that. So I'm glad I raised it, really. Great, good, and thank you for giving me the name Blue Ham, and also raising the point that I need to double check the NOV to see whether we can run that on. I mean, if I can't run it on with a special event course, I'll run it with my own. I think that's fine. I have to double check the wording on that one. Can I do that with a on 60 meters away from my on location. There are some funny restrictions on 60, aren't there? I'll have to double check that. If you remember offhand, know it offhand, Greg, then perhaps you can clarify on me whether I need to double check that or not, or whether you know I could operate from near Swindon with my own call sign without an issue. Good. Okay. Thank you very much for running it. It's been great down to clear up, and I'll hopefully talk to you next week if I can find a suitable lay-by to stop in and can get some phone signal. And there's my timeout gone again. G4 NRC, G4KL, then just listen to the end of the net, and then that will be it. So, Darius, back to you. NRC, G4KL.
G4KIL, G4NRC. Okay, I think it might be worthy of a quick call to the RSGB. Thankfully, it's not the bit I have to deal with repeaters. But the thought process going through my mind is Ofcom/MOD need to know who to get hold of to shut the station down. And I think there is still a contact requirement buried in the footnotes to the schedule in the license about operating on 5 MHz because of the height restriction on antennas as well as the different PEP restriction, full licensee only, etc. So it's not in the main flow of the license, but it is in the footnotes or the notes to the license, where I think you'll find that you must have a mobile phone number. The new-ish Ofcom licensing system, which is still delayed, otherwise I'd be calling for stations with figures 9 and 8 in their call sign before, or figure 9 in their call sign before we work down the rest, to remove the 2 prefix off intermediates. Still isn't live, still anticipated, I think, for autumn this year, and that will be where contact details could be more appropriately recorded. So, yeah, sorry, I can't help immediately other than directing you to. I can visualise a bit on a page, and it's in a footnote, it's not on a normal bit. Okay, right, despite having fewer on, we've run to mostly the same amount of time, so an increase in quantity or quality, I'm not sure which, but I'm sure people in the YouTube comments will pass judgment, if not, if they want to have an opinion. But we shall bring things to a close. Thanks to those of you who take the time out of your schedules to participate this afternoon. Thanks to Graham for doing the YouTube streaming. And be careful, have a good week until next Sunday afternoon at 1600 hours local time, when hopefully there will be a net controller and or a net, or an appropriate announcement will be put out into the RAYNET News on Friday to tell people what's happening. But I'll close the RAYNET weekly activity that now on talk groups 23531, Pheonix and Brandmeister, and 50233531 on the RAYNET UK network, and return those talk groups to being an open net rather than a directed net. 730, this is Golf 4 November Romeo Charlie now closing and reverting to my normal call sign of Golf 0 Delta Uniform Bravo. Bye bye.